Detective games. From Jinguji Saburo to Francis York Morgan, they seem to come in every possible shape and form. Holmes, Hyde, and Furudo sit at the very same table, whether they want to or not. With these three brains together, I'm sure not even Sumio Mondo and Roger Smith will be enough to weigh them down. But whether you're a true detective or an ultimate detective, a Meitante Precure or Milky Holmes, a Deca of Dynamite or a Voice, a Dale or a Date, a Conan or a Kindaichi, you gotta find some way to set yourself apart. This town's not big enough for two Poirots. Well, there's one Narukami Raizo who holds an oddly distinct title. Unwilling to pick merely one gimmick, this womanizing, unobservant, and altogether unimpressive louse has seen fit to occupy the slot of being both a far-future detective of space-time and of Dracula's. The space-time detective DD, Dracula Detective. The mystery of the Lorelei may not have been a particularly clever, or exciting, or well-constructed, or thematically sound, or logical, or cognizant of the complications of involving both the laws of mysteries and the laws of time travel-based sci-fi, or even gotten much out of the whole Dracula angle, or spent any time building its characters particularly well, or been capable of effective narrative tension, or looked good, or leveraged its hardware well. But there's definitely two things you could say about it. It was Space-Time Detective DD Dracula Detective, and Narukami Raizo is not very good at his job. So how on earth did this game get a sequel? The greatest mystery of Dracula Detective 2 may well be the simple existence of Dracula Detective 2. The first game was not popular. It was not well reviewed. I'm not sure it sold very well. 2 years after its release, System Satcom was quickly hurtling to their inevitable exit from the video game market. Their projects within the space murdered at the hands of that most nefarious of fiends, the lack of anybody buying their games anymore. There's a notable shift between System Satcom's earlier releases in this generation and these final releases in 1998, namely that they kind of entirely gave up on the cinematic CG movie approach. Dracula Detective 2, Upsaral of the Rebellion, sees such a fundamental shift in its core style of narrative delivery that you'd be forgiven for not even recognizing it as a sequel to the first game. And yet, some traces of the bloodline remain here, and there are benefits to this shift in structure. DD2 aims to be a prequel of sorts, telling the story of Narukami Raizo's grand origins and his meeting with his trusty sidekick, Kirihime Iceman, immediately leading up to their trip onto the World War II era passenger blimp carrying its dark secrets. The 2230s that DD1 hinted at are the key of the setting here, as well as the reasons why our louse of a Drac found himself in his current choice of employment. DD2 is not far off from the first game in being an odd and janky VN-leaning adventure game, and this video will be much the same as my video on DD1. A quick and dirty overview of the main story, with some highlights of key moments, but leaving enough unmentioned for you to have some reason to play it if it piques your interest. But you probably won't want to. In AD 2231, a state of emergency is called in Bangalore, India. Terrorists have planted a bomb within the Upsaral Center building. A team of 3 work to disarm it, members of the governmental time travel division, an unnamed programmer, investigation squad member Narukami Raizo, and Kaori, an inheritor of special genetics otherwise called a Chimerian. specifically a magnetic resonator type. This makes her good for disarming bombs, apparently. And right here is where you'll rub your nose right against the most obvious and immediate differences between DD1 and DD2. Namely, how much flatter things are. DD2's art style makes much heavier use of hand-drawn art and sprites, and the art is, usually decent? Like, it's pretty passable. Sometimes the faces look a bit weird, but generally it's expressive? Otherwise notable is the change to your core input with the game. This first, gameplay segment, just placing you on a single screen, or you look at things until the next scene happens. It's fine. It's functional. Disarmament goes smoothly enough, the monitor flashing a green Opsatus Descend as its fuse is disabled. The team comments on how the perpetrators here must have some kind of religious angle to their messaging. After finishing their job, Kaori and Raizo have a bit of a chat. After noticing Kaori's very nice watch,
いい時計ですね。
これね。
he comments on how unusual it is for their particular ranks to be called in for what seems like a local police job, and one happening within present time at that, their forces being more specialized for crimes happening within prior time streams. According to Kaori, the rumor is that the perpetrators here are an anti-time travel terrorist group. I guess you've gotta have one for everything. Just as the three are waiting for their masked programmer to make his way down with them, Opsatus comes light. Kaori senses it and tries to stop it, but the programmer tells her it's already too late. The top of the building is swallowed by a massive time vortex. Raizo is left standing alone. We catch back up to the present time in 2236, Shin-Okachimachi, Japan, Raizo's new home turf. As is typical of the fabled detective, Raizo wakes up penniless and jobless, but for the whispering voices of two middle school girls outside his office. They do not seem to hold a very high opinion of it. What's important, though, is that Raizo has a pet turtle named Baron. Guess he'd get along pretty well with Tokio Morishima. Reading the newspaper, it sure seems like space-time crimes are causing as much of a ruckus as you'd expect. Though, different from the first game, now there's an added tinge of the general political troubles going on surrounding Chimerians. As the girls walk in, they give their names. Mifuyu Mukojima, of the massively rich and famous Mukojima concern, and one Kirihime Iceman. They speak in somewhat hushed tones in between Kirihime's loud complaints about Raizo's smelliness and ugliness and his bad behavior. Mifuyu claims to have a lost twin sister named Miyuki, separated from her family in a space-time accident during a trip to China in some before-Christ era, when she was 3 years old. Raizo's not chomping at the bit to pick up such a vague job from such a suspicious customer, who refuses to even consult with her own parents about taking it up, but a rich client is a rich client. He just has to stop for a few errands first. Hopefully he can get them done before Kirihime calls him a pedophile for the third time.
ダメよ。ミーをこんなロリコン男と絶対に二人きりにはできないわ。
おい、俺はロリコンじゃないぞ。
They're really trying to play their dynamic up here. The second notable gameplay difference is introduced here. Dracdeck 2 has fully abandoned the mist-like 3D first-person corridor navigation of the original. In its place is this odd kind of faux SMT world map. There's benefits and drawbacks to see to this. It's not as slow, but it's not really much more involved either. And you're never on the screen long enough for it to develop much of an atmosphere. Dialogue scenes have this jerky cutaway from it every time they happen. And there's not many that aren't placed on your main path, so it feels somewhat pointless in a gameplay sense. On the other hand, they did the title drop. As Raizo passes the roads to upper Shin-Okachimachi to meet his informant on space-time crime matters, he bumps by some old friends, Rin and Sporef. Something tells me this guy has a hidden message for us. They offer up, free of charge of course, some hot rumors for our fanged Gumshoe that fill us in a bit on what happened in these last few years between Bangalore and now. It seems like that bomb incident didn't do much good for Raizo's reputation, and he's got a feeling he's been set up, though he's had no proof to show for it. According to his two friends here though, the very space-time division that cast him out might be pitching its resources in to create an illegal space-time weapon known as a dimension-distorted bomb. That don't sound good. After that, the trio finally go to meet Raizo's man. Hiding a little tunnel in the canal, a paranoid hacker named Iron Mouse, otherwise called Beaver, along with requesting him to look into any space-time travel logs to China recorded between AD 2225 and BC 212, the mouse hands him a disc with info he's gathered over the past half year on the incident in Bangalore, a job Raizo requested so long ago he straight up forgot somehow. With Kirihime teasing the androphobic Ratman, the group finally head out to the garage, housing Raizo's sick time ride, which is covered in dust because he doesn't have enough money to pay for cleaning. Alas, as a prequel, Raizo's time ride lacks the gorgeous pink elephant paint job Kirihime would redefine it for sometime later. For the present moment, though, the three have a relatively painless time warping back to a random mountain near the Great Wall of Ancient China, just after they decide who sits where with a game of rock, paper, scissors, because this thing's only a two-seater. Only Mifuyu seems to be impressed by it, really. Girl's a bit of an otaku. As they set off, Raizo forges some fake identities for the girls' entries in their time travel report, of course. Guy has to cover his own ass a bit. With no leads, Raizo is just kinda winging it here. The girls get to go hang out on the wall while Raizo walks around staring at grass for a few hours, I guess. I don't know what he was trying to do here. In this moment of separation, we become privy to some seemingly key information that Mifuyu and Kirihime are in fact runaways, and that's why they weren't so keen to discuss this with the elders of the Mukojima Zaibatsu. Consequences arise not long after. You can't run from the Time Squad. Especially not when they include your cranky old Captain Kogane.
だから誰が被疑者なんだって。
変われ、なるかみらいぞ。とんだヘマをやらかしたな。
その声は小金井さんじゃないっすか。
凶悪犯罪者に知り合いなどいない。
Raizo would rather turn them in and explain this whole deal before he gets a price put on his head, but this mid-20s Oji-san's just a mite too slow to stop Mifuyu and Kirihime from persuading his time ride's advanced AI, Krate, to warp them to some undefined point in space-time to get away. You can guess how well that goes. We're not in 21-2 BC China anymore. With no signs of life but for a bird fluttering overhead, Raizo determines their new destination to be a space-time Sargasso, an alternate dimension existing in parallel with our own that is not beholden to the same passage of time. I guess I gotta dig into my Arthur C. Clarke, because he says this is a common terminology in science fiction. Maybe Will Smith's iRobot was just a bit too high concept for this stuff. To illustrate my point, he delivers an extended lesson on the concept of time crystallization theory, beginning with an explanation of cause and effect, See, this line starts at a beginning point around these big time balls, and within the balls you can make small changes and still exist on the same timeline, but infinite balls exist outside of our line path balls. The balls are always getting bigger, which means you can do more in them, but the older balls are always getting smaller, which means you can do less. It's like you're stuffing a bunch of balls in an ever-growing pyramid, where the ones floating to the top are always shrinking. And the space-time Sargasso is the parallel world in between the balls. Time rides are cutting shortcuts through the multidimensional map rather than just tracing the line straight back, so if they don't hit a destination, they can land in a space-time Sargasso. So, basically, if that all sounds too complicated, just imagine 4 balls on the edge of a cliff. Time works the same way. Alright? Alright. As we wander the space-time Sargasso, we find the remains of an old time ride. Upon sighting a chained-up skeleton within, Raizo determines that this place is used by the space-time section for exiling criminals. Call me woke. No, seriously, do it. I'm tired of being subtle about it. But this seems a mite crueler than I'd hoped for the law in 2230 to function. Dracula Detective's whole world kinda seems like it would suck to live in general, though. Like some mix of Akira and X-Men, but you have unregulated time travel on top, turning every day into an existential crisis. Wait, I guess that is just regular X-Men. After further wandering following the path of the mystery bird, the trio locate a conspicuously large circus encampment, where they're welcomed by a little girl named Chiruru, who guides us in and introduces her little circus town as Carnavan. As the space-time Tante team makes their way inside, they quickly think up some disguises to hide their Chimerian status and the nature of their visit, settling on Raizo, playing the role of an archaeologist, Kirihime and Mifuyu as his 2 assistants. Does this look like the face of a scholar to you? As the game walks around and meets the residents, it turns out to be a full encampment of Chimerians, descended from refugees from an era long past, making their way in their new home as an eternal carnival put on for no one in particular. Chiruru's power is that of a witch, capable of talking to animals. She introduces us to Lilia, a woman who seems to hold a bit of a guiding parental role and who acts as our main point of contact here. She's an Icarian, which as you might guess, makes her extremely good at using swings. Raizo is into her to an alarming degree, but just as soon as they meet her, she's called into the ringmaster's tent, which, from the sounds of it, is not an illustrious thing to have happen to you, and certainly Ringmaster Brick's speech here carries only villainous vibes, despite his daughter being right in front of him. Raizo makes special note when she returns of her specific wording, that her dad is allowing our presence. Since Raizo's ride got an advanced super AI in it, actually digging it out of the sand and dragging it over to the garage here turns out to be a pretty simple process, and he sets about repairing it while the girls get their grand tour of the town. The quite literal next entire hour of the game is dedicated to exploring and learning about the people and places of Carnavan. You got the elephant, you got this woman, you got the Piero named Clown, who is not a clown named Piero. You got the balloon, who is specifically named Balloon and not Fusen, the Japanese word for balloon, which he makes. You got the watchtower, you got the electrical tower, you got the water tower, you got the tower, you got the clown house, you got the ominous triangles, you got the salamander man. Got it memorized? Good, because most of it doesn't matter. It isn't interesting. Raizo's exploration is decidedly less casual. He notices mysterious men in jumpsuits watching his every move, and observes how much of the facilities here use relatively old technology, particularly this odd water tower. In the electrical tower, though, he bears witness to some decidedly suspicious talks, and holy shit, Raizo can perform instant transmission? Good thing he remembered to eat all his tomatoes in advance this time. Come to think of it, there are no tomatoes in this game. They just dropped the whole tomato thing. Of course, we're still early in the game, so the talks Raizo witnesses are vague. Ringmaster Brick prattling on about how they must rush forward to perform some unprecedented operation. As he asks his men for any notable differentials in this obviously time crime-based plot, they answer that it's projected to be precisely plus minus 43 43,527 hours and 11 minutes. 5 years is apparently an answer Brick is satisfied with. Damn! I wonder what point in time this could apply to. If only Raizo had some very specific traumatic event dating back roughly 5 or 6 years this could remind him of. Well, don't worry. It ends up not mattering as much as you might think it does. Concerningly, Brick and his cohorts make a comment about needing to nip the bud of revolution with regards to the Chimerians in the camp. A comment made by a very familiar voice, might I add.
いずれにせよ、反乱の芽はどこかで摘み取らねばならんでしょう。分かっている。つまり、最小限度の犠牲は覚悟していただけると。ただし、リディアには絶対に手を出すな。あの娘に罪はない。
Now, the confusing part here is that the person who just suggested that somehow appears directly behind Raizo, despite being in the room Raizo is looking in on, and holy shit, man! Raizo can move like that? I haven't seen animations this fluid since Godlimation's epic Trapped trilogy. More importantly, you might recognize this chap as our buddy Schmidt from the last game, which certainly raises questions. So anyway, it's time to do a comedy trapeze scene.
What どうでもいいけど、パンツ見えてるぞお前。
A scene with Mifuyu and Lilia bonding together highlights their similar facial features, but points out their age difference? Wait, why would Lilia's age make it impossible for her to be Mifuyu's twin? This is a fucking time travel story. Wait. I have to ask, how old did Mifuyu expect her sister to be? When we were going back in time to rescue her, to find, presumably, the scene of her accident where she got stranded, did she think she was going to be the same age as her? Or did she think she was still going to be 3 years old? Because we were traveling back in time and they got separated when they were 3, and wait, later on, they actually talk like there are regulations. They can't just, allow anybody to just remain in any time period they want, but if that's the case, shouldn't missing persons reports in the time stream be like the most important thing to investigate? Shouldn't the time cops be more concerned about finding missing people? How has nobody looked for her before? This should be like a matter of fucking national security. They've changed the history of China forever by leaving this 3-year-old behind. What's happening? On the other side, sleeping in the garage, Raizo finally finishes repairs and pops in that mini-disc Iron Mouse gave him. Yes, I know. You don't have to tell me. An official report that altogether drags on too long but gives some important hints about the involvement of Kirishima Heavy Industry, an umbrella company of the Mukojima concern. Their unnamed programmer was one of their men. While the other 2 operatives involved in the defusal were proclaimed KIA, Raizo survived with light wounds and short-term amnesia, something we are only just learning right now. He can't remember anything after the blast, but he does remember enough to finally connect the dots. Space-time distortion bomb sure seems like a fine appellation for the mechanism he beheld. With this info in hand, Raizo does put together that with Mifuyu, he's got some sort of in to the Mukojima concern, so his plan of action's getting more straightened out. And after taking a short walk, he finds Lilia hanging out at the training ground and...
Maya!
Maya?
まさか、リリアが妹のマヤ。
His sister, Maya. Maya who? Lilia opens up about her history to D-Boy. She wasn't born here like most of the people were. She's a space-time strandee herself, and her first memories are of walking alone in the desert, ultimately rescued by Brick, who took her in as his own daughter. Brick was not the first ringleader, himself originating as a rescue drifter, but he is the one who built most of the technical facilities, and appears to be the most aggressive, harboring a unique hatred towards normies that the existing Chimerians of Carnavan find quite suspect. Well, most of them. Daiso thinks he's just looking out for her? Daiso, are you fucking serious? Lilia reveals that the ominous Puritent is in fact the home base of a third, even more mysterious faction, who came to the space-time Sargasso, calling themselves Izen, who now work alongside Brick to mysterious ends. Forget that though, Daiso's dropping some hot new lore about who the fuck Maya is.
マヤ、俺はお前を探し出すために時空探偵になったんだ。
What the fuck do you mean you became a space-time detective to find your lost sister? Who? When? Did I sleep through this? Was this hidden in some Dracula Detective lore bible? Was there a prequel OVA? When did Daiso have a long-lost sister? Why didn't she come up in the first game? Why didn't he relate a search for his own lost sister to his current job to find someone else's lost sister? Are they the same lost sister? Explain, Daiso! Speak Japanese, motherfucker! Just as Daiso makes a deal with Kirihime to keep in hiding as they go back to 2236 to refuel rather than letting the man clear his name of wrongdoing, he's at last granted an audience with the shadowy ringleader.
ここの代表をしていますブリックヒッツです。おや、どこかで一度お目にかかりました。
Brick Hits. Brick Hits. His name is Brick Hits. They don't have too much to talk about. After witnessing the cordial meeting, Lilia seems quite optimistic that she can convince Mr. Hitz to abandon his evil ways, while Raizo's just kinda like, no goddamn way, sister, that room was wiretapped. And of course, before we can lift off in our wonderful time ride, Schmidt's gotta get his word in. He's planted something in our ship, and I got a feeling it won't be good for us.
はい。ところでブリックという男は一体何者なんです？
打天使だよ。
打天使？
そうだ。一度は救いの神として名乗りを上げながら、気まぐれでそれに背き、自ら堕落した天使。
I like this bit where his own goon shit-talking behind his back. That's pretty funny.
Schmidt's so cool. Don't encourage him. Those roundabout speeches are his bad habit. Huh? That guy's in love with villainous stereotypes. Oh, I guess you're right. He does use a few too many metaphors. The aesthetics of evil just ain't a real thing these days.
Of course, Raizo in fact has no plans to go home yet. He drags Kirihime over to watch him locate the bomb Schmidt planted and deploys her aid in disarming it. It stays off this time. Determining that he's going to need a helping hand here, Raizo employs Kirihime as his new assistant and hands her a PDA to keep in contact with him with, and they get to work on busting this whole Brick Hits case wide open. Starting with their first lead, Brick's office. There does not turn out to be anything in Brick's office that could be helpful that Kirihime is willing to take. Just a blank notebook and a map, choosing to leave behind a suspicious data disk and a very nice watch, because if we take those, someone could get mad. You know, recently I played one of the Jinguji Saburo phone games, the DS remake, of course, one of the ones that Kazutaka Kodaka wrote before Danganronpa. Had a bit where Jinguji went undercover to find proof that a guy had murdered people, and this kind of feels to me like if when Jinguji found the proof, he was like, no, I shouldn't take this proof because he might find out that I know. That's what it feels like to me. And all Raizo finds out from tailing the guy himself is a headstone in the graveyard that he pays his respects to. There, Brick at least reveals his main intentions, and yeah, it's some X-Men villain shit. He wants to create an outer heaven for Chimerians where they can exist unbothered by the normies of the surrounding globe. I have no idea how exactly he plans on doing this, but it's what he plans to do, and he seems to assume Raizo to have experienced severe racism as a Chimerian himself. Raizo does not understand what the fuck bro is talking about. So they move to their second, smaller lead. Chichiru? Was it Chiriru? I can't even fucking be bothered to check anymore. Due to genetic differences, some Chimerians have more animalistic lifestyles than regulars, and in Chichiru's case, she's just gone into her hibernation cycle. Clown mentions the suspicious circumstances of her parents' death, caught in a time ride accident that only she survived. Raizo has one simple way to figure out the answer to this mystery. Use his fucking vampire mind-reading power that he's always had, apparently. What the fuck? Though Chichiru's mind was a bust, it turns out Raizo's vampiric mind link works on birds, too. And the one thing he pulled out of Chichiru's head was an image of her pet bird. So after chasing the bird around Carnavan in what can almost be called gameplay, he climbs a radio tower to reach the pesky avian. He lost another game of rock, paper, scissors. As he climbs, he takes note of the layout of the strange subspace carnival. Laid out in such a particular way, you can't help but theorize some greater purpose to it. After dipping into the bird's mind, he sees the full story of Chichiru's parents' demise. They were, in fact, Space-Time Section's investigative agents come to sniff out Izen's true intentions. A nasty virus planted on their ship did them in, which understandably raises some specific concerns for Raizo to check up on. Hey, how did those people know? How did they know about Izen? How did they know that Izen were in the Sargasso? And why didn't the Space-Time Section know that something went wrong when their agents disappeared and didn't respond? Why didn't they check? Why didn't Space-Time Section check on the place they knew where their agents had died? Things accelerate a mite from here. Schmidt and Brick become wise to Raizo's true identity, though it becomes clear that Schmidt himself operates with his own goals, separate from the ringleader. Schmidt notifies Brick of Raizo's criminal warrant, and informs the Space-Time Police. Things get messy. Kogane's crew gets sent in. Lilia and Mifuyu swap outfits to throw them off her tail, then try to pull off a sabotage operation on their time ride, with Kirihime employing some more hilarious jokes where she implies Raizo is some mega pedophile. A real endless mine of comedy. They fail, but gain the sympathy of two of Kogane's cohorts and ultimately ride as the anti-brick elements of Carnavan try to stage an uprising. Izen's agents storm in with guns. There's a scene where Schmidt delivers exposition about how Lilia is in fact Mifuyu's sister who is left to die in the space-time Sargasso by her own parents because of the Mukojima concern's political issues with Chimerians. Something about a liquid creating more Chimerians or something. I don't know. I'm going to be honest, half of this game has turned into unnecessarily detailed exposition about things I don't really care about. I don't have the context to care about them. I'm not having fun with this one. In one final tense confrontation, with Brick seeming to take interest in both Lilia and Mifuyu, holding Mifuyu in her Lilia disguise hostage, Raizo tries the stupidest shit ever and immediately gets wrecked for it.
どうします?
クラシックな方法だが、ここは一つ人質交換といこうか。その子を返してくれるのなら話し合いに応じてもいい。
よかろう。ならば手出しはしない。こちらから先に解放する。危ない！
撃たないで！
銃を下ろせ。もういい。時空探偵一人取り逃がしたところで計画に支障はない。
卑怯者。
勘違いするな。すべてはキメリアンのためなのだ。
I can't believe he fucking Is he trying to out Halligan? Is he trying to one up the mystery of the druids here? What are we doing? A zoom later, and we're finally out of Sargasso, switching karate into manual mode because Raizo apparently forgot to take care of that virus he just guessed the autopilot would be infected with. He didn't do anything about it. How much longer can this game even be at this point? We're in primordial? I don't know, prehistoric? We're in giant frog land now. And Kirihime hates frogs. That bullet wounds left Raizo wanting for blood, and they can't risk coming back to the present anymore. The present day they return to might not just be different for Brick's intervention, it might straight up delete them on entry. He does raise one good point though. This is a time travel story, and if we're this far back, there's no real lack of time to speak of. As long as they figure out where to intervene, they can stop Brick's evil scheme right at its core. The tricky part is going to be figuring out, who am I kidding? The mystery's been more gradual than DD1 in a sense, but it's still not hard. Just put it together, man. Evil government worked with evil corporation to make evil super bomb. You lost your job because of a super bomb. Man involved with evil terrorists just said he's sending a bad thing through space-time. I forgot to mention he's been in there for 20 years, right? But Brick Hits has been in there for 20 years. It's a time travel story. Time displacement can happen. Is it that hard? Is it that hard to put together? Well, I guess not that hard because he finally does it. In one of the least exciting putting together the clues scenes I've seen. Not exactly Danganronpa here. Mukojima funded a bad time bomb with the space-time whatever, and the Bangalore operation was meant to be a test run. The terrorist attack story was a cover, and the deployment of Space-Time Bureau members in place of regular police a ruse to keep the bomb its nature secret, but the programmer was a secret bad guy and sabotaged it or something. Raizo determined he was a man, but not what man. Turned out Brick's journal was useful after all and actually did contain information they just literally somehow didn't find. No, seriously. Raizo he found more important information from this journal, flipping it open for writing paper, than he did when they were investigating it as a clue. The identity of the prior ringleader was a Swiss guy named Cyril Klein, and the Galapagos is an infamous Outer Heaven-type big freedom ship. He tried to do a revolution with it, but the Space-Time Division found it and disposed of it or something. Also, you may have guessed this, while Brick wants a Chimerian Outer Heaven, Schmidt just wants to swindle the Mukojima concern for money. I feel like this information should be cool, but it kind of isn't. One thing that drives me crazy is they keep saying they're using history as a shield. I guess because if they do terrorism in the past, it makes it harder for fear of breaking the time stream or whatever. I don't know. The rules around time travel in this setting have gotten too stupid. They've tried to explain them, and every time they try to explain them, it gets more stupid. The incident happened in the 1790s, I guess. It's going back to before it happened to try the thing again. So we're going there, because of the map of London in the 1790s. I think. I'm tired. Thankfully, the time stream, it hits a good point for jumping forward. Because Raizo is just now revealing that time pressure is a thing that exists. There's pressure in space-time that pressures your time ride. Certain times of day have less time pressure. So we do a mini game to head to 1796. Gotta remember to save your game before you do the time travel minigame, so you don't get lost in the time stream. Is it over? No, the time investigation is never over. There's just like 800 unvoiced scenes of guys you don't know discussing how the Space-Time Bureau doesn't give a shit and is leaving the situation to the Mukojima Saibatsu. We're also deciding to leave the twins to die. Raizo's going in to save them. After freeing the captured circus guys, Brick goes crazy and detaches the core of the Galapagos from the landmass it's carrying to reveal a giant time distortion cannon that he fucking murders a random hot air balloon with for some reason. Just fucking obliterates him. Just fuck you, I guess. Fuck you, blimp guy. I didn't edit out the sound in this scene. This is how this is presented in game. Schmidt doesn't like that. Raizo pulls out that wacky secret weapon Sporef mentioned at the start. It's a time skip drive that'll send him and Kirihime a few minutes into the past so they can destroy the cannon before it fires, and they do it. You have to do this bad minigame again. I don't know why this is such a recurring thing. There's two things Dracula Detective 2 loves. Pedophilia jokes and weird QTE minigames. Don't worry about our ship's AI, because Kirihime backed him up, even though he isn't in the first game, which means he doesn't come back. After that, Schmidt just kind of ditches the place. Raizo and Kirihime save Kogane and his boys, retake their space-time cop cruiser, rescue Lilia, blow up one of the power generators with that bomb we disarmed earlier, and head up for the epic finale while Brick's boys view him as a cowardly traitor for giving up, and not even a Cimmerian at that. This guy's he's a friggin' regular, he's a friggin' normie. And so shoot him before rushing off to the left and right wings the Galapagos and detaching them. If it sounds like I'm skipping a lot of things, then rest assured, there is one more joke about Kogane's co-worker supposing he might be a pedophile for no reason. Oh yeah, he also drops a random line about how Izan is probably a sub-arm of Vasenacht. Remember Vasenacht? You'd think Raizo would, but apparently he has prosopagnosia or something because he doesn't even remember Schmidt a year from now. The guy who shot him in the fucking arm! Oh, trust me, Raizo. I understand that exact feeling. Brick hits, releases Mifuyu. The boys save her, Raizo and Lilia rush up ahead and find none else but the very nice watch. After sucking some blood consensually, Raizo uses his vamp powers to find out that the very nice watch is the very same very nice watch that Kaori wore, which means... At the top of the Galapagos, Brick Hits gives the most overwrought villain speech I've ever read. Genuinely, so fucking agonizingly long and uninteresting that was like a final knife in the gut for how far this game's tested my fucking patience. He's one of the inventors of the DDB, and because of guilt, but also insanity, but also wanting to display the sins of space-time division to a third party's judgment, he hit the reactivation button, not expecting Kaori to try to go back up to stop it again. When he tried to save her, they got stranded in the Sargasso, which he attributes to an act of God, and his speech starts turning into how culture stagnated in the 20th century, and everyone's obsessed with the past, so we need to use time travel to change the past, to push cultural evolution. This guy has like 4 motivations. He's gone from like ethnic genocide to I don't even fucking know. And he views time travel as like a god-granted power, and I can't do it anymore, man. This game's giving me a fucking headache. He and Raizo have a deep philosophical argument about whether free will is real and Brick's death is predestined, so that is so insanely generic and goes on so long you could fill a single episode of a TV show. As eventually, Lilia comes up and clarifies that, yes, she knows she is Mifuyu's sister and is older because of time displacement, something you would think people in a setting involving time travel would more broadly take into mind. After some more riveting philosophical debate, this happens. What's happening anymore? Lilia and Raizo, they convince Brickets that he should fight against destiny. He should live, he should fight to live for himself as his own person, using the watch, might I add. He convinces him using the nice watch. So they accept his final request to send him in a time machine to the infinite desert where you starve to death. No, like they literally. This is power moment. This is a moment where he has redeemed himself, and he is a happier person, and he's struggling to live to the last moment, so he can die in a desert. He shouldn't accept that he's going to die. He should die in a desert between space-time in a parallel dimension. Like he wants? He should go die in a desert. Okay. Everything is over. All the bad guys are arrested or dying in a desert or going to appear 1 year from now somehow unrecognized by any of the people who saw their faces. Lilia decides to stay in the 18th century with her circus family, and the space-time division is just okay with this, I guess. Just like, yeah, our bad. We don't get a say in this. We did way worse shit, man. We can't tell you no, cause you know, we're the evil government, but we feel bad. I guess the plot is resolved. Our epic final scene frames how Kirihime is basically a replacement for Raizo's long-lost sister now. That's it. He just has a sister who's lost in space-time that he's never going to find now. Never finds her. She doesn't exist after this. He's never going to see her again. That's the end of Dracula Detective. I didn't like this one.
Au.